Hello, I'm Michael, and this is Tarot by the Tree. We're continuing on our discussion of the minor arcana. We are in the suit of coins at the moment, or pentacles. Today we're discussing the Six of Coins, and this is the card. And this card and the previous card, the Five, are not exactly what they seem to be at face value, and we'll discuss that a little bit. Let's start with a bit of a recap. The suit of coins is about being self-sufficient, and it's only in that state that you are able to help other people. It's about not being a burden on other people. And it's about having pride, and it's about having the ability to develop the other parts of your person. As we move through the cards, we started with the Ace of Coins, which is there's something in your life that's going to make you some money, that's going to give you some wealth, enough wealth to cover your needs. And we've discussed the difference between needs and wants before. So to start with, pathway number one, incredibly busy, busier than you can be able to be for the rest of your life, but maybe for a year you can manage this and learning all aspects of the business, juggling and dancing, and become indispensable at the work, somebody people rely on. Perhaps in time, as we move to the Three card, you can concentrate, specialize, develop your talents, and rise above all other people because of what you can do. And in this case, it's bringing stone, in a sense, to life. Finally, remembering this is about the noble cause of making money, and I know it's not always seen that way, but in tarot, it's one of the four suits and is considered equal to happiness, power, and ideas. As we move into the fourth card, and we're going to compare this card quite a bit with today's card, we'll see somebody holding tight to their coins. Those are the three things that we have to do in order to gain financial independence. Starting out with doing everything. You're indispensable. Moving on to specialization, where you can concentrate on something. And finally, it's saving. And we all know the story of movie stars and such who for a few years make an incredible amount of money, and we see them a few years later and they have no money. Saving is equally important to earning. We moved yesterday to the card that breaks from this tradition of telling us how to earn money, and it jumps right in to the scenario of what happens if you don't have the money. And this is the Five card. This is the other side of financial independence. In a sense, is what happens if you don't do what the 2, 3, or 4 of coins suggest. And we discussed this card, and it's dark night of the soul. It's sickness, injury, infirmity, no home. And it is the dark side of not having money. We've said money doesn't buy happiness, but lack of happiness will certainly buy lack of money will certainly buy unhappiness. What coins are all about: independence, the ability to help others, and the ability to develop yourself. What the Six means, and all the Six cards exist in the sixth sephira of the Tree of Life, is Tiferet. It is the realm of beauty. It is identified by the Lovers card, and also on the second tree by the Star card. And they both have to do with what love is. We're going to compare the 5 and the 6 cards for a minute. I actually mean the 4 and the 6 cards. The 4 card, which is the card here, appears to be a greedy person, perhaps, or at least they're very secure in the way they hold on to their money. When we look at the 6 card, it seems like this is a card of generosity. And these are superficial readings, and they are not that accurate. When we look at the 4 card, this person changes himself. Through the saving of his money, he is able to insulate himself from negative forces and to be able to have a degree of autonomy that will let him do what he thinks is best. The 6 card does what makes him seem better. And we'll talk more about this, but seeming better is very often more important than being better. It's just something to do with the psychology of many people. We'll describe this card. There's a man of seeming wealth. He wears a red ornate turban as a hat. He has red leggings, a sash, and robe. He gives coins from one hand to a beggar, and in the other hand he holds a set of scales. He stands on solid ground. Woodlands and a city or castle are in the background. We're returning to the place on the tree again. We've mentioned it's Tiferet. It's the lovers. It's finding affection. And the star card, which is giving with no hope or thought of reward. In fact, that's considered the highest form of love, just giving. The form of love in youth is mutual, and it's finding what you want in another person. It's a duality in that way. We do find, talking about the place on the tree of life, Tiferet, that however the emotion in this card may be artificial, and the charity may be a plan to gain the appearance of being generous and wise. The meaning of the card. The meaning of the card is what we call today virtue signaling. It's acting good to gain the reputation of a kind of philanthropy based on perceived merit. This is a man that strolls with pocket change, which he dispenses to those whom he considers worthy. Maybe he asks them questions, maybe he bases it on looks or asks for their life story. I don't know, but he has something that makes him think that his idea of worthiness is a form of justice. The man in card 4 appears greedy, but he's not. He's building himself up. We mentioned if you only had a bucket of water a day and you lived in the desert, if you spread it all around, you'll have nothing left. If you use that bucket wisely, you may be able to establish a bit of a micro system where you can get some grass growing, which stabilizes the land, which holds the water, and so on. And that's what he is doing here. He is building himself up, so he will be in a position to be independent, and he will be able to enact the things that he thinks are wise and good to do. The card we're looking at today in 6, he appears generous. But we have to examine what that word generous means. He is placing himself above the poor folk, and that is perhaps his intention. He knows what poverty is, and he is suddenly in a position not to be amongst them. Now, he could turn to this kind of a card and start saving and building himself up. Or in this card, I think he's so overwhelmed with the feeling of not having to beg for charity anymore that he imagines himself much wiser and much more powerful than he is. And in a sense, he is trying to be like the Justice card. The Justice card is card 11, a very specialized card that talks about a karma-like equality of action and reaction. He thinks that he can determine who and what is worthy by being very demonstrative in his choices and his gifts. This card, card number 6, is about a kind of conceit, a big fish in a little bowl. He is not building for the future. He is trying to rise above his station by appearing to be a wealthy philanthropist and a judger of morality. Why is this a bad card? It doesn't depict real compassion. And as we move through the cards, we will see compassion is the lens that we should check every action through before we take that action. There is no real compassion in this. There's the question of who is he to judge? Another question is, does he really move them out of poverty? And there are many stories like this about people of good intention, for instance, donating running shoes to very poor groups in other countries. And as much as that may be a good thing, it does nothing to eliminate the cause of their poverty and their distress. And in this case, the few coins he dispenses will not change anybody's station in life. In a sense, it's a band-aid. And in a sense, he now has a false reputation. And before the days of cinema, TV, and internet, reputation was solely based on actions. This was quite the departure from that, as he is feigning actions to gain reputation. And in fact, the only thing he gives is what he doesn't really need. Sort of an age-old question. Would you rather do good but have nobody ever notice? Or would you rather be able to do nothing and have a solid reputation for doing good? And as much as we all think we don't want to live in the matrix and that we want to do good even if nobody notices, we will see that a lot of people would trade all of that for a positive reputation. It may be that reputation amongst our peers is our single biggest motivator, and being a failure in front of our peers may be the largest dissuader for us doing any kind of an action. Why don't we move to some of the questions?
What does the set of scales represent?
Judgment. Justice. He is deciding who deserves the pennies that he gives. He's become sort of an arbitrator. And that's not his role in life. That's above his pay grade. He would have to ask each person's story. He would have to walk in their shoes. He would have to have a depth of understanding that would go back to their childhood in order to be a judgment or somebody who dispenses justice. He is not those things. He is a person who has just recently risen out of poverty and a dependence on charity. And he should continue to wisely move into a place of independence and have his reputation grow from his actions. In this case, he's feigning and creating a reputation based on actions that seem good but actually do nothing.
There's that story of the fish, where what do? You give the guy a fish, or
Yeah, or you teach him to fish and feed him for a lifetime. Yeah, I think there's something to look at charity sometimes as maybe not the best thing. Maybe it doesn't bring out our strongest inclinations.
why is he wearing the fancy clothing?
So we mentioned the idea that he is trying to show off and he is trying to appear. The fancy clothing is it gives him an aura of some mystique, as if he had traveled many places, and that's the aura he is trying to establish, one of mystique and hidden wisdom.
And that he's made it. He's got all this.
Yeah, even
money.
at that low level, he's trying to suggest that he has made it when really he's still struggling, and he's likely to remain at this level now because he's not actively working towards the future.
Who are the two kneeling people, and how does he choose to whom he's going to give the money?
Well, they are poor folk, and if we remember looking at the 5 of coins, they are like those people, perhaps even those people at a different time. They're poor, destitute, they have health problems, and life has not been kind to them. And they have no way of making any income anymore. They've given up and they exist off the kindness of strangers. It is unlikely that their lot in life is going to move from this state. They would need some sort of a caregiver, some sort of an advocate. Shall I answer that question?
Well, yeah, he's choosing, so he's judging
Yeah.
to whom he's going. He's deciding which one is worthy of his attention, his money.
Yeah, exactly. And we did see in there was the Lover's card and the Star card, and the Star is the highest form of love, which means giving with no thought of return. And I just can't lay my hands on it.
And he could be giving the guy money so that maybe at another time he might want his services for something.
Perhaps it could be, yeah, it could be just using him.
Is it wrong to be judgmental?
Well, yeah. I think it's wrong to be judgmental when we imagine what a person is like before we verify any of those imaginings. When we let clothing or speech or first impressions govern the way we see a person. However, we can't discard that, because I think that's one of our wisdoms, that we are not just so open-minded that we're naive and vulnerable. There is an aspect of recognizing danger when we see it. So in that sense, it's good.
Is this man like the Justice card?
He pretends to be. Justice is a very special card in tarot. It doesn't sit on either tree. It hangs above, and the two trees are, in a sense, suspended from it. Justice is a card that takes into account everything that's been done, and it balances the scales. This person doesn't have the requisite wisdom or understanding to be able to be anything like the Justice card.
What is the likely future of the man in this card with the fancy clothes?
The likely future of this man is he will turn into one of these people that we all know who try to impress people with half-truths and stories about their past. And these stories get greater all the time. This is a person who is very happy living with a false image of himself, as long as what other people reflect back to him is what he wants. It's kind of a superficial existence, but I think he will probably continue along that way and always trying to impress people with things, many of which he hasn't really done or accomplished.
And like the much that's going on in the media now, you've got these rich people who have an appearance, and then you find out all these bad things that they've done and are doing.
I know, it's such facades people can put around themselves.
Is this a bad man?
He's not a bad man. Worst I could say about him is he was a self-limiting man. No, he's not bad. He walks around with delusions of grandeur. He distributes enough coinage to give a bit of temporary joy to some people, but not enough to change anybody's life. He's not a bad man. He even brings some happiness at a very short-term level into some lives. And he is not out to actually injure or hurt. He's out to build up himself.
Final thoughts.
I think charity is about supplying needs, not rewarding what you believe in. I think we can all try to help, but we all have to try not to judge. And I think that is sort of the message behind this card. That's it for today. I hope you have a good one, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.